Welcome to today's webinar, Breaking Barriers, Shattering the Myths About Fleet Safety Tech, presented by GPS Track It. I'm Lauren Fletcher, Executive Editor of Fleet, Trucking and Transportation at Bobbitt and Work Truck Magazine, and I'll be your moderator for today's event. I encourage you all to ask questions during the webinar at any point, and we will try to address them all. However, if we don't get to yours, don't worry. You will be contacted by email with a response after the event. I am joined today by our speaker, Jeff Alsop, Senior Director of Indirect Sales at GPS Track It. Thank you so much for being here. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself, Jeff?
Sure, Lauren, appreciate being here. It's going to be a fun day learning about busting some myths today. So I've been in the telematics space for roughly 20 years. I was a reseller for GPS Track It. I've been with GPS Track for the last 6 years. Done a lot of different positions and really love where I am right now in channel sales and partner sales and working with partners like Bobbitt to do these presentations and hopefully give some companies some good information throughout the day here today. So I'm just excited to be here and ready to get cranked up.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure myself and everybody here is ready to go. So why don't we go ahead and just get right on into it?
Let's do it. Let's shatter some myths here. All right. So most fleets and companies want to do the right thing, right? They want to keep what matters most safe. That includes drivers, motorists on the road. While every fleet aims to be productive, efficient, they need to be profitable. They need to stay in business. Their primary goal, it really is to get drivers home safely at night. And keep other motorists on the road safe. So in fact, through some research we've done with Bobbitt, and we're going to see a lot of that throughout the presentation today. And if you tuned in a couple of weeks ago, we did some of that research there as well. But 2/3 of fleet professionals consider it extremely important to continually improve safety practices. And we're going to get into a lot of that here today. All right. Goals without action. What's interesting is though safety is a priority, just 3 in 10 fleet safety professionals said they would put some budget into it, and minimal budget at that, 1 to 5% of their budget toward adding dash cams to improve safety, which is super curious. There could be a bunch of reasons for that, and we'll try to tackle that through some questions a little bit later. But just think about that. It's such a top priority, yet most companies don't have a ton of budget for those type of safety improvements from a technology standpoint. All right. So what is the holdup? Why can't we find that money in the budget? This is really interesting. We experience this a lot in the sales world. To get a sale, sometimes companies are waiting for some sort of a triggering event. Really, at that point, it's too late. So they're looking to add safety technologies after a safety incident or an accident. That's kind of playing with fire, right? That's a little bit of it can catch you in a bad situation where you end up with high costs, possible litigation, when there are prevention measures that we can tackle before something like that happens. So what we're about to do is go through all the different myths about safety technology. We're going to shatter those and hopefully help you put you on course to a better safety culture within your organizations. So let's kind of go through these, and we're going to go slide by slide here. So myth number 1, I don't need it. Number 2, I can't afford it. Myth number 3, my drivers don't want it. That's a big one, and we'll dive into that one pretty good. Myth number 4, I don't have time for it. Myth number 5, it is too complicated to use and install. And then myth number 6, it does not work. I know it does because I use it, so we'll tackle that one too. All right, let's start with myth number 1. I don't need it, right? All right. So I think everybody needs it. Population has grown. There are infinitely more vehicles on the road today. We've seen a massive increase in crashes. There's some data to back this up too, guys. In 2021, almost 525,000 large truck accidents in the U.S., over 100,000 more than the year before. I imagine if we check out 2022, 2023 data, that's probably continued to increase. So we're seeing this exponential increase in incidents on the road. Of these crashes, over 100,000 caused injury. And here's a kicker, guys, almost 4,500 led to fatalities. All that to say, these type of technologies bring in put you in a realm of prevention. That's the ultimate goal. The protection side of things is obviously key. When there is an incident, when there is an accident, we want video proof of what exactly happened. Who was at fault, right? That's a big kicker. But I'd argue that the most important part of these type of safety technologies is the prevention angle of it through the use of artificial intelligence, in-cabin notifications, things like that, data that provides you information to coach better off of, to create policies around, really helps to prevent these things from happening. Keeping safety in the forefront of your driver's mind through the use of technology, which affords you the ability to create those entire programs around something like this. So that data, I think, is going to continue to climb as we move into the future as well. All right, so again, I think this states everybody needs it, right? These accidents continue to increase, and what we're doing and what this safety technology does can help prevent some of this as well. All right, myth number 2. I can't afford it. All right, now this is huge. A couple weeks ago, I did one of these with Lauren, and then a couple weeks back, I did another one, and we talked about nuclear verdicts. So pricey vehicle repairs, workers' compensation, inaccurate payrolls that cost you money, unplanned downtime when you have an accident. When compared to those type of expenses, an investment in safety technologies, i.e. dash cams, it seems pretty small. So let's kind of go through some of these. Nuclear verdicts cost money. They cost more than ever right now. In fact, here's some good facts for you here. Transportation Research Institute finds verdict award sizes grew by almost 52% from 2010 to 2018. Now, I'll also reference there was the largest nuclear verdict of all time, a $1 billion verdict against a trucking company in Florida as recently as 2021. So $100 million to the family of the victim, and then over $900 million was awarded in punitive damages as well. So these things are happening a lot. We live in a more litigious society. We see vehicles out on the road intentionally causing accidents and incidents for insurance purposes and claims purposes and litigation purposes. So we got to be on the keep an eye out for those things. And so this type of technology actually captures those type of things and can help get you out of those situations. Insurance costs are outpacing inflation right now. One of the previous guests was from Protective Insurance, and he had some amazing data around this as well. So insurance costs have risen 10% annually over a decade, according to the ATRI research. The worse a fleet's safety record is, the higher the rates soar. Now, some caveats here. Adding dash cams, adding safety technology may not decrease your premiums. There's some insurance companies out there that are offering discounts for this type of thing. I think most companies, most fleet managers and business owners understand that they're going through a yearly audit on their insurance. So with this type of technology, what we have seen is your rate doesn't increase as much. So there is a built-in discount per se when instead of a 2, 3, 4, 5% increase, that might be cut in half because you're implementing these type of safety technologies. So a great play to save yourself in the insurance world is introducing something like this. So soaring vehicle repair costs. We all know this. This slide's the perfect analogy for the snowball effect of an accident. Litigation, potential insurance increases, vehicle repair cost. And we're going to get to workman's compensation. All those things add up. Now, even if it's not your fault and you've got this beautiful video evidence that it's not your fault, you still have vehicle downtime that has to be repaired. Your employee might be injured. So you don't have the vehicle on the road. You don't have the employee on the road. That's a part of your business. And it's even more impactful when we think about smaller fleets. Let's say a small fleet and they've got 4 or 5 vehicles. You got a vehicle off the road and a service tech off the road. That's 20 to 25% of your revenue being generated by that asset, by that worker. So extremely important to keep those things on the road. So back to soaring vehicle repair costs. We still got supply chain issues, guys. I mean, it's been dragging on since COVID. So keeping up with demand has been difficult. You've also got the labor force shortages. They drive up labor costs. A lot of drivers will bounce from one company to the other, especially in the trucking world and the over-the-road world, where they can get paid a few cents more a mile. So keeping your employees, those labor costs going up is vitally important as well. So workers' compensation costs. So if you do have a worker injury on the job, you're going to pay a premium in compensation costs there as well. And then finally, inaccurate payroll. Without GPS technology, dashcam technology, there's got to be a better way to track driver time. So when you use those tools to have drivers clock in, clock out, track vehicle usage, when they start their day, when they end their day, payroll accuracy improves. And we typically see up to 30 minutes to an hour per driver per week saved in payroll because you got more accurate start and end times. We can get rid of some of the fraud through the use of this type of technology as well. And so that's an added benefit to this outside the previous four we discussed. So in my opinion, based on all this data, you can't not implement something like this. You can't afford not to do something like this for your fleets. All right, moving right along. Myth number 3, drivers don't want it. This is a tough one. But I will say we're dealing with human beings. One of the most important things when I walk out the door each morning, I want to get home at night to my family. And so does everybody else who works out there. They worry about video telematics being big brother, though. But we can overcome this together, guys. First and foremost, be transparent. Adopt a sound policy and educate the drivers. Incorporate the drivers into the process. A good sign of leadership is taking the feedback. I hear some of the people I work with a lot talk about, hey, I understand what we're trying to do, but I just want to understand the why. So let's make sure we explain the why to our drivers. And first and foremost, it's not big brother. It's more so to protect them. I mentioned previously, there's people out there intentionally causing accidents. We want to make sure we protect our drivers from stuff like that and being at fault for things like that as well. So definitely be transparent about that with your drivers and incorporate them into the process. Part of that is don't make this punitive. You got to put a carrot at the end of that stick. Most safety programs are successful when there's a rewards program, an incentive program, a competitive program built around safety and safety scoring and driver monitoring. And it's amazing what happens. Point number 3, have fun with it. When you establish those type of competitions. A couple of years ago, I went to a safety conference of one of GPS Trackit's larger clients. Ton of great data came out of that. They were able to slowly and steadily for the last half of the year decrease all their speeding metrics and their driver aggression metrics across the board through all branches, all divisions, right? That was fun, but what every single person in that room was waiting for was the rewards at the end of the year. So top drivers got like $1,000 gift card. So people were winning big screen TVs for their safety records. And it came down to, I think, 1/10 of a point between the number 1 and the number 2 driver. So these guys get into competition. And I think it's vitally important to create that type of an atmosphere for them. And that helps breed a better safety culture. Now, side note here, guys, if you're going to implement a safety policy, a safety program, the key here is you have to be willing to enforce it. That's the hard part, right? I mentioned labor shortages, drivers leaving for people implementing safety technologies potentially. But that nuclear verdict that I mentioned, that $1 billion verdict, was because of negligence on that company's part for a driver with a really bad safety record. So unfortunately, part of this process is if they're creating extreme liabilities, you might have to part ways with an employee. But those that that you're transparent with, that are able to provide you feedback, that are able to give input, and you explain the why to them, and you create a game out of this, and you create incentives out of this, they're going to stick with it, and it's only going to improve your business. And bottom line, they're going to get home at night. So, and build that trust. So one of the pieces of technology that we offer to build trust and get rid of this notion of Big Brother is what we call driver safety assistance, DSA. So this alerts the drivers to certain errors, certain automated triggers around driver behaviors, so they can correct them in real time with those real-time automated notifications within the cabin. So I'll give you an example. Our video solution does distracted driving, but we also layer in DSA so that if the camera is aware or monitors that they are driving distracted, looking out the window, looking down, not paying attention to the road, no eyes on the road, it's going to give them an audible notification. It's going to give them a verbal pay attention warning, give them a few seconds to get eyes back on the road, get settled before it generates a distracted violation. So that is continually adding an extra layer of coaching, notifying them of a warning before they get a violation video, because a lot of drivers are just like, everything I do, it's an alert to my supervisor and it's an alert to my boss. And there's tons of video of me in the system. And my boss is always breathing down my throat about it, around my neck about it. And this gives them that extra layer of coaching to allow them to correct that, and brings them more into the process, makes them more aware of how they're operating the vehicle. And I can speak to this firsthand. I test all our products, guys. So when we implemented DSA, it was really a game changer, honestly, because I caught myself on my cell phone too much. I caught myself not paying attention too much. And now I was able to quickly correct that, right? And it becomes psychological. It becomes gamification in the cabin. My ultimate goal on a daily basis now is make sure my camera doesn't talk to me. And if I do that, then I know I've had an extremely safe driving day. So ultimately, this can kind of be fun. It can be a game with the camera in the cab. So for myth number 3, guys, bottom line, just be transparent. Make it fun. Incentivize your drivers to be safe, and it'll go a long way. All right. Myth number 4, I don't have time for it. I think what none of you guys have time for is a long litigation process, or dealing with an insurance company for 6 months, going through a he said, she said on an accident, and in the time and effort and money that may take. So point here is, let's invest in some innovation. So we consolidate at GPS Track It. We consolidate dash cameras with GPS. It's a simplified install. One piece of hardware can install in minutes. Deployment is easy. And then we drive safety improvements through the technology. This provides coaching in real time. So when we think in terms of what's the workload on a supervisor, on a company, on a business owner, if we're talking about a small business with a handful of trucks, what's the workload to really take advantage of this type of technology? So coaching happens automatically when we use our AI and our cameras as they move down the road. So drivers can continuously improve their behavior before it's escalated to administrators, right? I mentioned that DSA piece. We're notifying the driver. They're correcting their behavior. They're getting used to it. They're more aware of how they operate the vehicles. And so their driving improves day to day and over time. So we're getting less data to have to review because we have developed a better safety culture. Drivers are more aware of that. When it does come into the system, we automate that for you. As far as videos are automatically posted, the most important ones to you that may be distracted, that may be things like collision warnings, that may be when they use their phone or don't wear their seatbelt, things like that. We can have those automatically texted or emailed to you in real-time alerts, so that you're aware of that situation in real time. And you're not having to comb through a bunch of videos looking for exactly what you want. We've got filters within the platform as well, so you can get the information very quickly. And then you can intervene only as needed, right? So those safety events that you want your alerts for, or the most egregious events, you know those things in real time. And you've got all that at your fingertips within the platform. to quickly find, look at that. You can add coaching notes to this and have that ready for a driver review very quickly. So we do a lot of things within the software, within our training, to help make sure that this doesn't cost you a lot of time. It beats coming through pages and pages of reports trying to find things versus when you have quick and actionable video evidence from our solution. All right, myth number 5. It's too complicated to use and install. Like I mentioned, guys, this is installed in minutes. We can hardwire this thing. We can do a hybrid installation with fuse taps, or we can plug and play. Guys, I'm no mechanic. I installed this in my vehicle probably in about 15 minutes. Probably the most technical part of this whole thing is just being able to put the cabling underneath the headliner. That's about it. So this is very fast, easy to install. I would say probably 60-70% of our clientele that have implemented dash cams have installed this themselves. So it's definitely not rocket science, guys. So, and this AI empowers your drivers. So when coaching happens in the cabin, like I mentioned, we got to bring these guys into the fold. This empowers your drivers to make the changes on their own before they create that violation, which again reduces the workload of you guys having to comb through videos. So, which leads you right into saving supervisor time, right? We can now, because we have this video evidence, we have this technology, we have these tools in place, we can focus on the most unsafe drivers, right? Without any type of visibility or transparency with dash cams or GPS tracking, anything that's going to monitor aggressive behavior, you're left to guess or not sure who's a bad driver, who's a good driver, what risks do I have out in the field right now? You're blind, right? And that's it can be a scary thing as a business owner, especially all the way back to myth number 2 with I can't afford it. We've seen what happens from a litigation and insurance standpoint. So, and this is customizable to your needs. Like I mentioned, we want to provide you with actionable data. So through reporting, through our dashboards, through the live video links, through the alerts, we're going to help you understand the data and make it make sense, make it actionable as well. And again, this is for all fleets. GPS Track It services fleets from 1 truck up to thousands of vehicles. And there's some really interesting data here for all those in the small, medium-sized business world, the guys with 1 to call it 50 to 100 trucks. This is where we're seeing most of the growth in video telematics. A lot of your larger enterprise companies have already implemented solutions like this, right? The more vehicles you have on the road, the more risk. But we're seeing this play out very quickly in the SMB world, where people are starting to adopt this technology because they realize the benefits, and they realize some of these myths we're busting today, that it's not overly complicated. It's quick and easy to install. GPS Track It provides unlimited training, so we can make sure that you guys know how to use the tools that we're providing to you guys. So again, this is affordable and it's usable for any fleet size. And myth number 6, it does not work. Kind of a funny one. Again, like I mentioned, I've got this in my vehicle. I know it works because a couple of years ago, I didn't realize how unsafe I was. The amount of videos and violation videos that would hit our platform from my demo device was pretty wild. Now it's very minimal. Not great for the sales team because they don't have a ton of content to look at from me, but I know I'm driving more safely, right? So for me, it's not anecdotal, it's personal. I've experienced it. I know how it works. I know how I've changed as a driver. I don't work for a company. I do this personally. I feel bad for my kiddos. They'll probably have dash cams in their vehicles when they get to 16. But guys, this definitely does work. We see that through the market, through companies adopting this technology in very quickly. Early 3, 4, 5 years ago, this was a luxury. Now I believe it's a necessity. Quick testimonial from one of our clients. It's not only the video proof, it's also the information the system has of each one of my vehicles in real time. Very trustworthy and definitely very useful. Absolutely. And that's from the owner of Chin Diesel. We get these testimonials all the time. The ability to essentially be virtually in the cab with your drivers, to provide peace of mind that you've never had before, it's game changing. We think about a business owner or folks that have been with a company for a long time. It's emotional to them. Running that company, making sure that company is successful, making sure that company is profitable, making sure that company stays in business. That's a key part of a lot of people's lives. And we want to be able to protect that in general. Thinking back all the way to myth number 2, where we talked about nuclear verdicts. The nuclear verdict on a small business puts you out of business. So we should do something about that. And the key points of all of this and what we're trying to do here is, number 1, we want to get everybody home safe at night. We call them the 2 Ps, prevention and protection. I mentioned the protection side of things. This is going to provide you guys with that evidence when something does happen. But again, most importantly, with the tools we have, both in-cabin artificial intelligence to notify your driver in real time of bad safety practices, so that they're more cognizant of how they're operating their vehicles, they're more safe in the field, right? Also externally, if we're tailgating, if we got lane departures, if collision warnings, things like that, that can help them better understand the other motorists around them and in their external environment to become better drivers as well, is key to not having to, hopefully, can't guarantee you're never going to have an accident, right? But hopefully reduce the amount of protection we have to do because we're doing a lot of prevention ahead of time. And I've seen it play out in my own life, guys, honestly. So, all right. Myth number 6, hopefully busted, guys, or shattered. So GPS Track It, we provide an all-in-one solution. We help fleets push boundaries, break barriers, and boost safety. Again, I've talked a lot about this. This is an AI-based solution. Real-time in-cabin voice notifications. Kicker, available in both English and Spanish. This is one device, 2 solutions. Full-blown telematics, mileage tracking, reporting, start and end day, full suite of alerts for things like speeding, excessive idling, all the bells and whistles of what you traditionally see in the black box GPS tracking world, but now we're layering in this robust technology with video. Again, I can't speak enough about DSA. This is going to empower your drivers to make corrective changes on their own. This brings them into the process, right? This helps alleviate the idea of Big Brother and just worried about every time something happens, supervisor gets a video. And again, can't stress this enough, affordable and easy to use and easy to install. Again, installed in minutes. So this is definitely something that every company can leverage, can utilize, can implement going forward. And again, I want to stress, if you're going to do something like this, which I think you should, that you got to understand what comes with that, right? We have to have that process in place, have that program in place. We want to reward, but we've also got to be willing to do the right thing when we find unsafe drivers that create that liability and that risk to our business, which is could put us out of business potentially. And we have to enforce those. That's the hardest part about this whole deal, guys. But you're going to have all the tools you need to be able to do that with cause. All right, finished a little early, so we can start with questions.
Jeff, that was just fantastic. I was taking some notes while I was listening in the background, and I noted a few things of personal importance. And I think it was, build trust, make it fun, and empowering your drivers. And I think that between those things, like you mentioned a few times, drivers are so concerned still about Big Brother kind of coming at them and being watched all the time. But I feel like if you can really take it and help the drivers understand that this is truly for them and to help protect them, and keep them front and center, that really does seem to make a difference.
No, absolutely. Yeah, it has to. I mean, the whole goal of business is to obviously remain in business. They want to be profitable, but they're only profitable with their people. So if they can't keep their people safe, then it's kind of first and foremost to running a company, right? And I talked about this a little bit on our last webinar, and I think what kind of gets lost is we're humans dealing with other humans, right? And I think we've got to couch it that way. Most important thing here is that everybody is safe. Everybody goes home. And we don't injure anybody. We don't injure anybody else on the road, right? And this also plays into the emotional aspect of owning a business. This is your reputation, right? So if you have unsafe drivers on the road, that can hurt the reputation of your business within your community. If you're a nationwide company, good luck with that type of reputation when you've got verdicts against you and you've got bad safety records. Yeah, it's extremely important.
Well, as we mentioned in the beginning of this webinar, we do have some time for some questions. So if you haven't dropped a question in, please go ahead and do so. I do have a few that are coming in, and it's time to put Jeff in the hot seat now and throw some questions his way. So a fantastic one just came in. What is a good way to make this a game for the drivers? Do you have any examples that you might be able to share about how to kind of gamify all of this?
Sure. I think it goes to safety scorecarding, right? We have to come up with a goal in mind as far as what are we going to do at the end of the year, at the end of the quarter? Are we going to do how do we scale out time periods with certain prizes and rewards with that, right? And then we've got a few companies that will post those safety scores on a weekly basis, and we create that fun competition out of it where they're checking the break room board to see where they are in the pecking order of safe driving. And I think that's where it starts, right? Is giving those drivers visibility in how they're scoring, right? That's where the competition starts, and that's where guys really kind of start adopting that culture, and then just kind of deciding on how often are we going to reward, what does that look like, if companies are doing a big end of the year type thing, then creating an awards presentation out of that for safe driving. That's the fun way to do it. For me personally, it's a game in the cab every day. And if you can have that mindset as a driver, it really changes the game for me. At first I was kind of annoyed. I was like, I didn't really do that. I didn't really do that. And then you go back and watch and you're like, holy cow. I am sitting there staring at my cell phone driving on the highway. This is not great. So I think if you can do that as an individual and have some fun with it, but then know that there's the pot of gold at the end of that rainbow, right? When you're doing the right things, that there's a potential reward out there, and then creating that competition. Humans are competitive by nature. It doesn't matter what you're doing. I've got a 10-year-old daughter, and man, she and I play board games, and she's only 10, and all she wants to do is win. It starts at a young age. I think it's just ingrained in us. So when you create that competition, I think that changes a driver's mindset as well, because they know there's something at the end of this. So
I think, you made a good point as well. The reward side of gamifying things doesn't always have to be a financial incentive. While I'm sure, a gift card or something's nice, just some kind of recognition at a meeting or at an end of year event can go a really long way as well.
Yeah, great point. The attaboys a lot of times mean more than getting a gift card. The ability to be recognized amongst your peers in front of your company, that's massive. And you're nailing the head, Lauren, right there. Absolutely.
Moving on to another question that we got. So looking at the time of year right now, so winter is here. It's been snowing off and on in Central Oregon where I'm at. It's definitely getting colder. I know, we've been talking a lot about fleet management and safety in particular. What should
Yeah.
we be kind of keeping an eye on during the colder winter months, and how can, dash cams and everything kind of help out a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, first let's start with making sure our vehicles are in running and condition in good order, right? Um, I live in Texas. The last 2 or 3 years, we've had these fun random ice storms, and if anybody here is from Texas or anybody's been to Texas, we don't know how to drive in the rain. Number one, we also do not know how to drive in the ice and snow. It gets scary and dangerous. So weather's number one, Lauren. I mean, the road conditions change drastically during the wintertime. For all those up in the Northeast and Midwest, they're used to driving in snow. God bless you. I can't do it very well. So, make sure vehicles are in running order. Make sure that we're aware of the weather and what the weather is going to be like on a daily basis. How do dash cams play in? I think they play in hugely. When you're on icy roads, when you're on wet roads, when you're on snowy roads, the ADAS within our cameras that are going to let you know that you're close following, or if you're tailgating, the follow distance is drastically more important in those type of weather conditions. Also, just making sure you're attentive all the time. Last year, I was up in Nebraska, and the day we were leaving, Lauren, just winter storm just hits Nebraska, and it's about a 13-hour drive from central Nebraska down to Texas. And I'm driving in a blizzard. I'm trying to follow the plow trucks. Like, I'm going like 50 miles an hour on the highway. I got 3 kids in the back, and I'm just white knuckling it for the first 5 hours of the drive. Like, that is stressful driving. So the ability to make sure we kind of honestly have a little extra set of eyes sitting up on our dash for the external environment and what we're doing in the cabin, I think is vitally important to making sure that we're safe in those type of conditions. So make sure your vehicles are running order, and then make sure hopefully drivers are paying attention to their cues from their dash cameras, or just being aware of those type of conditions that change a lot when it comes to how quickly something can happen.
Yeah, I think on that following distance thing, we like to say a lot, 4-wheel drive does not equate to 4-wheel stop. And
Yeah,
so you definitely need to have that little bit of extra
yeah,
space. That's a great point.
yeah.
Moving on, we have another one from our audience here. So what are you seeing from the commercial insurance markets requiring telematics as a mandatory risk management tool? Are you seeing anything connected to that?
We are actually in certain industry segments. I know it was maybe a couple years ago, I think hazard waste mandated those type of things as far as GPS tracking and telematics on hazard waste vehicles. You've already seen it, guys, coming down the pike with for all those that are over the road trucking and trucking or heavy haul that are crossing state lines. You've already seen it come down from the government with the ELD mandate for your hours of service logging. So yeah, certain industry segments, definitely we're seeing those type of things. I think on a case-by-case basis, we're seeing that mandated by insurance companies that for certain size fleets, for certain fleets that are potentially about to lose their insurance. They're like, hey, I've actually had a handful of clients that are like, hey, my insurance company has come and said to us, we have to implement this or we run the risk of losing insurance. And there's even industries out there that have to be self-insured now. I think, gosh, having a dash cam solution, have a safety technology, if you're self-insured, is even more important because of the cost there. So yeah, absolutely. Across different industries. And then really, hopefully this prevents you from your insurance company telling you have to get it because you already have it and your safety scores are so low that you're getting those discounts. You don't want to be in that bucket where they're like, get dash cams or your insurance is dropped. So definitely keep that in mind.
Be ahead of the game instead of being forced to do it. No, it makes a lot of sense. I really like this question. I think that it connects to a lot of what you've been talking about. You've mentioned AI, several times, as well as the, human driver. So in an industry that's really rapidly advancing with technology, what's your take on the balance between human decision-making and automated systems when it comes to safety? And how can fleets kind of maintain this balance more effectively?
Yeah, I think the technology is just rapidly improving. We've seen it over the last handful of years, and AI is touching a ton of components of our lives. In the safety world, with Chat GPT and content, with marketing, I mean, it's just across the board. People are leveraging AI. I think in the safety world, you do have to find that balance. AI is programmed to see what it is supposed to see. Sometimes it doesn't have the context that you as a human would have. So when we think about watching a video clip and AI says, yeah, it was a hard break, but contextually as a human, we're going to view that and see, okay, was that a hard break to avoid an incident? Great, that's positive, right? Not negative. So again, AI sees what it sees. It's very smart and it's very accurate at reporting what it sees, but you still need that human element to provide that proper context to that. You still need, in a lot of cases, eyes on that and understand the situation so that you can make the right call on it. And whether events occur and they're actually were a quote unquote safety event, but were for a positive reason to avoid an incident, to avoid an accident, to prevent something bad from happening, versus one that is important to see because it could lead to risk and it could lead to an incident. So I think there's definitely that balance because I think, in my opinion, the human eye, the human element is the one that can provide context and dictate between positive and negative more so than AI knows what it sees and it's reporting what it sees, but it might not have that type of intuition you need or that context you need to truly understand the exact event that occurred.
No, I have done a drive before testing various different systems. And I think one of the more educational experiences I had was on a construction lot. And there was a stop sign that somebody had put up to simply warn the drivers to just be aware in this small non-legal place to be driving. It was just a parking lot. But the cameras kept picking up that stop sign as a ran stop sign because of the angle that it was at. And it looked like a stop sign. So, with that kind of kept in mind, how do you kind of see the evolution of GPS and video monitoring in fleet management and kind of learning and growing with these changes and challenges that are occurring?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think to your point, it's continuing to evolve. Kind of scary, I guess, but it continues to get smarter. And there's also, talk about the human element. We got to bring the human element into testing, right? Call them default settings versus realistic real world settings on some of this technology, right? Because it's all based on a configuration of how we're monitoring that. Now, the cool part about GPS Track It is we've got a lot of leverage and a lot of levers to pull on configuration as far as increasing sensitivity levels. We talk about, I don't want to get overly technical and put everybody to sleep. We talk about delays in detection. So how soon do you want to know an event occurs, right? We really don't want to just start dinging people for distraction after 1 second. You look over to check your mirrors and all of a sudden you get a distracted violation, right? So we work to tweak those settings to provide a safe environment, one that is accurate and applicable in the real world in providing you the data that you need. So I think as the AI continues to improve and get smarter, I think as we as a company constantly evaluate that, we have just like your computer gets a software update, our cameras periodically get firmware updates for improvements from the AI vendors that we use for our external and internal triggers and warnings and automation. So that's going to continue to improve. They're going to continue to find better ways to monitor things, try to understand those edge cases, like you mentioned with the stop sign, just because of a weird angle, it's thinking they're running it, right? And make those improvements. So there's the firmware software side of things where AI gets better. And then there's also the back end tools that businesses and companies, technology companies like GPS Track It has to configure and tweak some settings, because not all companies want the exact same things. One company may want their triggers super fast. The other company is like, okay, we're going to give our drivers a little bit of leeway. But the beauty of what we do at GPS Track It too is we want to, customer's always right, but we don't want to create settings within the cameras that make the cameras unsafe, right? We don't want them, we want to be able to make sure that the proper safety events are recognized. But so coupling the advances in AI technology and then couple that with configurable settings and sensitivity levels that we can manipulate for you guys. That's kind of the nice balance of making sure that these things work correctly.
Right. You can't just tell it to ignore stop signs. I mean, that wouldn't quite work.
Ignore the stoplights, the stop signs, ignore speeding, ignore all that stuff, right? Yeah.
No, so I think we've talked a lot about, using this system and using the technology. But when it comes to actually implementing and taking the time and investment, what are some key tips that our audience can use to really implement this type of a system efficiently if they haven't really got started on it yet?
Yeah, I think we go back to the number one thing in what we hear a lot is, well, my drivers aren't going to like this. So let's start with, hey, let's find the right solution. Let's understand the solution, the tools that we're going to have. That way we can explain that to drivers, talking about the program we're about to implement, the why behind this. Start there, right? We've chosen the right solution. The company is aware of it. The company knows how they want to use it, right? The company's informed the drivers of what we're going to do. Try to get that feedback, try to get that buy-in, help them understand the why to where we're all on the same page to start with, right? And once we're there as a company, we implement the technology. And like I mentioned, installation is fast and easy. Now, I highly recommend when you get it put in. And then 3, we offer free and unlimited training. Make sure that when you're in the software, you understand how to use the tool. Think about why we're getting this in the first place, and then learn how to use those tools within the platform to where you can become efficient at it over time. And then you can also help you grow into the solution. Start leveraging and utilizing more of the feature sets and the tools that GPS in general, as well as Dashcams offer. You take that crawl, walk, run approach to where you can scale your safety program with the tool you have now. So, but I think it all starts with that making sure everybody's on the same page first and foremost, and then making sure you're trained on the solution. What we find is the most successful companies with our solution, with any telematics or safety solution, are those that take the training. Those that understand the product they have, understand how to use it, understand the ins and outs and the caveats of solutions like these, to where they can more effectively manage the data they're getting. So training is 100% key here.
I love those points. And I think, there's a few things that you really said. It's, scale it, start at just start. There's definitely a point where you've got to get something started. But it doesn't have to be everything. It doesn't have to be every single vehicle and the absolute highest level of support. Start someplace. But one thing that I know I've really seen is don't really set it and forget it. You mentioned ongoing training and growing and scaling up. And I think that's a really important fact and something for fleets to keep in mind as well.
No, absolutely. Yeah, this is not a set it and forget it tool, because it's going to tell you too much. It's going to be impossible to set it and forget it, especially on the Dashcam side of things. But yeah, if you buy a tool like this and then don't use it, we think about from a safety standpoint, you're not paying attention to driver violations and the risk and the liability that's creating. That's the wrong road to go down, right? So when you do them, just get started. Just get started and start thinking about the certain key things that you want to focus on. That's what we did I mentioned that safety conference a couple of years ago. The HSC, the safety director, and I sat down and had biweekly meetings, and their number one focus for an entire quarter was reduction in extreme excessive speeding. Those things that were like 15 miles an hour over the posted speed limit, right? So we started there on that key metric. And then now we saw this reduction, this awareness, this implementation across the company. We had supervisor, manager, branch manager buy-in, and we started getting that driver buy-in based on the competitive scoring and the reward at the end of the year, right? And then the next quarter, we moved on to aggression events. We wanted to try to cut down on the hard brakes and the hard turns and the rapid accelerations and things like that. So taking it and almost segmenting it, again, crawl, walk, run. Let's focus on the highest risk activity. Maybe for the first month, we're just kind of getting used to it. We get trained on it. We know where to find things. We know how to filter things. We set our alerts properly to where we're creating some automation where it's not a system we're sitting staring at the screen all day long. It's going to tell us when we need to know something, right? But then taking the proper action steps next. But maybe we focus on distraction and using our phone for the first 30 days. And we try to cut back on those things. And then we focus in on some other safety events the next month or the next quarter. And then by the end of 6 months, you've got this extreme change in safety factors, safety score, the culture of the business, because we maybe didn't necessarily try to cram everything down everybody's throat all at one time, right? We're providing these key focuses. I've got a decent attention span, but I'm a decent multitasker. But if you want to throw like, hey, don't do this, or this today, it's like, can I focus on one thing that you want me to try to eliminate, right? So scale it correctly internally within the company as far as monitoring, as well as with your drivers. Help them try to simplify the focus on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis.
Try to help them turn them into habits. I think that's a really important thing. Yeah.
There you go.
All right.
That's what I was looking for.
Looking ahead, what are the next steps for GPS Track It in evolving its safety technology to really kind of meet needs and keep you guys ahead and kind of better than your competitors? What are you guys looking for in the future?
Oh man, we're constantly trying to evolve. We've got some brilliantly talented people in our tech department, in our product department that are always looking for new product. The vendors we work with are really adept at, like I mentioned, we're updating firmware. Our cameras are getting smarter. We're implementing more back-end tools for us to monitor and make adjustments as necessary. So we're really good at doing that, and we look to strive to do that on a daily basis to ensure our products are best of breed and our solution is best of breed. Innovation on the platform side, as far as giving clients more tools to use, making the existing tools we have more intuitive, easier to use, right? Creating those simplified workflows within the platform so that we get rid of that myth of I don't have time for this. And then also thinking about using AI technology for not only the Dashcam side of things, but the platform, the data in general. Let's make the data we have smarter. Are there better and different ways that we can use the data we have in more simplified dashboards, or make it easier to find and recognize the key things that a fleet manager is looking for? So you gotta constantly think about evolving and innovating. We at GPS Track It actually have what we call is an innovation council. It's our ideas council, bringing what could be, what's possible to the forefront, putting those things within our roadmap so that we can implement those down the road, right? I think that's key. I think discussion and conversation around what's possible is extremely important to grow as a business. And I think in turn, that only helps us better serve our clients. One of our key values is we are a customer-centric company. So everything we do is with our clients in mind. How do we make their lives easier? How do we give them more peace of mind? How do we provide better products for them to run their business? Like, we want to be part of that journey with our clients so they can get the most out of their business. So there's your.
I love it.
Everybody in my company is used to those long answers, so there you go. There's my non-succinct answer to your question, Lauren.
No, that's fantastic. And I think, that is an absolute perfect way to start wrapping this up. We are hitting our time limit, and I really want to make sure Anybody asked a question that wasn't answered, we will make sure we follow up via email to answer your questions individually. We really hope you all enjoyed today's webinar. And I just want to thank Jeff and GPS Track It again for today's presentation. And I just want to mention that this webinar will be available on demand to share with all of your friends and family on the Work Truck website at worktruckonline.com/webinars. Thank you so much, and we hope you have a fantastic day.
Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, everybody.